I'm still kind of endlessly fascinated by what is that magic dust that's sprinkled on a certain image that makes it more powerful than another image. It goes so far beyond composition and lighting and all those things, but yet it's kind of all those things mixed together, and that's the essence of what is interesting about photography to me. Oh man, I love when the city looks like that. My name is Christopher Anderson, full member in Magnum. There was certain ideas, the notion that this camera could represent for me, especially growing up in a small town in Texas. This little machine represented a way out. So there was that sense of having an idea of wanting to do something with this. But what that really meant of being a professional, no. When I got out of university, I was planning to go into academia, but a friend of my family got me a job at the Dallas Morning News printing pictures and developing film there. I did that as a summer job, and I knew then I wanted to be a photographer somehow, and I was never going to go back to academia. I got really lucky. Someone gave me a job to take pictures before I even really understood that there was a job description of professional photographer. I had no formal training. I really didn't know how to work a camera. I certainly had no journalism training. I became this professional and kind of learned on the job. And I spent many years just trying to do my job as good as I could do it before I ever started really thinking about putting very basic questions to myself, like, what is a photograph? And what do I want my photographs to represent? Those sort of questions came to me much later. Here's the Haiti boat story. June 18th, 2000. In Haiti, this writer and I, Michael Finkel, met this guy in Haiti who told us this amazing story about trying to get on a boat and sail to the United States. We got on one of these boats, 44 Haitians plus myself and the writer, and we set sail. And a few days later, we started sinking. That moment in the boat, when we realized that we were sinking, you know, up until that point, I hadn't taken many photographs, and the guy we were with, David, says, Chris, you better start taking pictures now. We're going to be dead in 45 minutes. Without thinking too much about it, I began making photographs as we were literally saying goodbye to each other. This is the guy, David. It was like the moment we realized we were sinking. You can see the water coming in from the inside of the boat there. And later on, after that, I thought about that moment over and over again and tried to, you know, asking myself the question, why make photographs that I assumed no one would see? And the only answer that I could come up with was that the actual act of making pictures, the photography in and of itself, it has much to do for me about explaining the world to myself as it did explaining it to someone else. The very act of photography was part of how I understood things. It crystallized the notion, the idea of what it was I thought about photography and what I wanted to do with pictures. It changed everything. And from that point, I guess editors thought that I was looking for danger and was, you know, willing to go through some discomfort. And so I started getting offers to do the obvious thing, which is go to wars. And that set about the next several years was this kind of blur into, you know, from Israel, Palestine, to Lebanon, to Africa, to Iraq, Afghanistan, but with a clear idea of what I wanted the pictures to be about. I wanted to find a way for someone to feel what it was that I experienced. An emotional quality that cut through all the ideas of facts and journalism, but went straight to something else, which is an emotional truth. I don't know if I made a conscious decision to stop doing wars or not. A part of it's I had a child. One skill set that I had in doing that kind of work was that I was able to remain relatively calm in those situations, and now I felt like I didn't trust how I would react. But then there's also the other side of me, which is that for me, there was never this, you know, oh, I used to be that and now I've become this. It's just like, you know, we grow and we change as human beings. So even from a creative standpoint, I'm taken in different directions now. Portraits, for instance, and really kind of looking at why I like some portraits, why some portraiture is compelling and others is not. And me not coming from any sort of formal technical training of photography, you know, forcing myself to learn some of those things in order to pull off what it is that I want to photograph. Yeah, I kind of like those challenges.
What
did you have?
What did I have? What did I have?
No, a present.
A present? If I have a present? A present?
The Son Project, the photographs of my son and my father, it really happened quite organically in the sense that I had a kid. Started, like any father, taking pictures of their kid. And about the same time, my father became ill. And so I was thinking about very obvious themes of the cycles of life and death. And that's the weird thing about parenthood. It's completely universal and mundane, and at the same time it's completely unique and intimate and special. And so I began photographing my father and my son, and at the beginning just without thinking about it. And it started to dawn on me that what I was seeing in the pictures was that quality that I felt like I'd been on a search for since I first started using a camera. And that everything that I had photographed up until that point was as if it were just some sort of preparation to bring me to that point, to provide me with the tools or the insight or whatever it was in order to make those pictures. And that was my life's work. It was very quick also, because that particular set of pictures loses its magic the moment that it becomes a conscious work. Flash card, camera, lenses, extra battery. See, I always want to take a picture right here. And I can't park my car.
The work I'm doing now with New York Magazine, it's a big change for me because I'm staying mostly at home to do it after years of having worked mostly in strange places around the world.
Check this out. It's like old Bronx courthouse that's just bricked up and empty, you know? And also for me is an extension of what the Sun work was. The Sun photographs are this, you know, this first time where I kind of look at my own world, at this city in which I live, and the people that I live with in this city. And so in that sense, the work retains this sort of personal edge to it, this personal connection, my world in New York and my friendships with other photographers and artists and writers, And it's part of this collective experience that we're having now that I'm privileged enough to get to photograph in a concentrated way. Yeah, you know, I don't know like Harlem, Spanish Harlem as well as I would like to. I would like to really explore it more. Wow, there is we're going to try to stop here because there's a great shot. And these aren't really the projects that we're looking at, but I see a great shot here. So
I go out and I think of it as like I start turning over rocks and see what I find underneath, and sometimes you find the most interesting things under a rock, you know, and sometimes you find nothing. But a lot of it is just about going out and meeting people and seeing where that leads to.
Hello. Are you Miss Dunda?
No.
No? She's not here? Oh. I heard she takes care of the gardens. Is that right?
What's that? She went to the store. They say she'd be back in a little bit. So.
She is right here. Well, that's my garden right here.
Oh, you're in a garden here too? Oh, great. We've met a couple women who have 10 gardens outside of a project. They were sort of a connection into this world there. You never know what that leads to. You never know what, you know, when you get invited in for tea or whatever, and all of a sudden this other world opens up to you that you would have never known just by walking by or just by showing up.
There's no winners and there's no losers out here. Everybody wins. I want y'all to understand that. Nobody loses. Everybody wins in this tournament.
If there's one word that I hope describes my pictures, the kind of the gist of my pictures, it's intimacy. And that requires an interaction with people to some extent. I want the pictures to feel more than just you know, this shadow that passes by and stops a scene. I want it to feel engaged and connected. New York is one of those strange places to photograph because it's, first of all, it's terribly photogenic. They're pictured, there are cliches everywhere, but there's light bouncing around, there's this graphically these big buildings and the canyons of the streets and these characters all over the place. And you're also just, it's overwhelming, it's daunting, this idea of photographing New York, because it is a genre in and of itself. It's a photographic cliche. You feel overwhelmed by this idea of how can I ever, you know, attempt to do that? You know, it's all been done before. At the same time, it hasn't been done. I feel it's, you know, from my point of view right now, in this year, this week, today. As I'm working, I'm thinking of how, of these images that I make on the street today, what that picture will mean 10 years from now. I kind of think sometimes pictures age well, in the sense that today it's a picture that doesn't look like much or doesn't mean much, but can you imagine this thing 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now? That's how photography to me is interesting. It's not just that moment. It's not just today. It's something that's a longer thing. So yeah, I'm aware of the assignment today, and I go out and I do that, do my work and do it correctly. But really, as I'm doing an assignment, it's about the longer view, the bigger picture, and how this thing becomes a piece of a puzzle, a much larger puzzle.